Oh man, it's good to be here this morning. This portion of our morning we call intersection. This is a time where we look at something that is currently going on in culture, and we talk a little bit about where it is that thing in culture intersects with Jesus. We like to call it intersection, where culture meets Jesus. Some of you may have seen it on the news this week, but Ontario Premier Doug Ford created a bit of a buzz this week after swallowing a bee during his news conference. Did you hear about that? In the middle of a question about health of the province of Ontario, there was an insect kind of buzzing around, and then all of a sudden the insect wasn't anywhere to be seen. As it entered into his mouth, he breathed and sucked that thing into his throat, at which point he began a coughing fit, swallowed, and then it was gone. And just as he coughed and hacked the thing down, all of a sudden when he was done, he yelled out, "Holy Christ, I just swallowed a bee." And he took a sip of water and he gave a thumbs up to reporters saying, "He's okay." And then Ford joked a little bit about what a classic move it was, that it was probably going to be played on YouTube and have memes underneath it for weeks. And it's had a few this week already. But some religious folks were extremely upset that Mr. Ford took the Lord's name in vain publicly, and that he should apologize. And they've been out there yelling and demanding. You probably know the verse that they come to. It's the third commandment. It says, "You shall not take the name of your Lord, the Lord your God, in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain." And when we approach something familiar to us, and just read it quickly and move on, then we kind of miss the importance of what it is that's going on here. But in order to understand what it means to take someone's name in vain, in particular God's name in vain, we have to slow down a little bit and maybe read that verse one more time again and ask ourselves, what does it mean to take the name of the Lord? What does it mean to take the name of the Lord? Another way you can translate this in the original language is, "You shall not bear the name of the Lord in vain." What this verse is saying is that God's people are his image bearers. Another way of thinking about that is that Christians are the representation of God on earth, that your actions tell those around you something about God. Think about it this way. When you go to a store and you encounter somebody in the store, and that person working at the store is cranky or belligerent or maybe just not very good at their job, then you're going to be less likely to shop there in the future because that person represents the store, right? And obviously, if that person represents the store and they're lousy, then I'm not going to shop here anymore, right? And of course, the reverse is true, right? If you encounter an excellent employee at a store, it's more likely that you're going to shop there in the future because they represent the company, and that tells you a little bit more about the company. And the same is true for all of us who follow God, that we bear his image, it says in 2 Corinthians. What we do, how we treat others, how it is that we interact, tells somebody about whose image we bear. That as Jesus followers, we represent God. Think about that for a minute. In your everyday life, at work, at school, as you interact with your parents, as you interact with the people around you, what is how you're currently living expressing about God? As you bear the image of God in you, what does that say about God? The next question we should be asking about ourselves is, what the heck does in vain mean? Right? In vain, that Hebrew word translated in vain carries the idea of being empty, hollow, nothing, worthless, to no good purpose. This doesn't mean that we should avoid saying God's name, as some people do. Rather, we should be careful how it is that we use his name. We tend to downplay the importance of a name in our society. I don't know why it is that we do that. When we're picking our baby name, we spend a ton of time going, what does it mean? What is the background of this? Is this Hebrew? Is this Celtic? What is it that's going on with this name? This name is important. We recognize it's important when we're picking the name, But there also is an importance carried by our name. It tells a little bit about who it is that you are. And in the ancient past, anyways, it was so important, in particular in regards to the name of God. It carried a power to it and an understanding to it. His name has meaning behind it. It's holy. Therefore, we shouldn't use it as empty, holy, worthless, or in vain. Does that make sense? And that's what this commandment, I think, is getting at, that we are forbidden from taking the name of God, meaning representing him in a manner that is worthless or for our own gain or wicked. Let me translate the idea of the verse this way, that we are God's ambassadors, and therefore we should represent him well to those around us. And as a Jesus follower, man, should you watch what you say? Yeah, absolutely you should watch what you say. Why? Because we sometimes forget that our words carry a weight. When Jesus gave us an authority to move on earth, that authority carries weight. We have to be aware that our words contain the power of life and death in them. And so we should watch what it is that we say. And as Jesus followers, we must be careful. But getting your bee in a bonnet at a premier who isn't a professing Christian, who just swallowed an actual bee, is just dumb. And that's where Jesus meets culture.